Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Do You Mind podcast. I have the notoriously known Amanda from Alice, Texas, America, and she's here to promote her book and give a little campaign about why she's running for the school district. Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself for us real quick?
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Friedeck. I'm a local from Alice, Texas, a business owner, a mother, now children's book author, and I'm running for Alice ISD Board of Trustees Place 6.
Nice. So, if you don't mind me asking, what was the inspiration to even running for Alice to be in the school district?
So the inspiration was I was recruiting for other people to run. And I found some amazing people in the community that have run in the past. And I'm like, hey, I'll help you. Like, I like to encourage people to run for office. I believe in term limits. That's one of my biggest platforms. So if I see that seats are, over 10 years in a seat or multiple years, because these are 4-year seats. So those are pretty long terms for the area. I just kind of, encourage people to vote and to help make a change. And our school district needs some new eyes and perspective. It's not very diverse, personally, when you actually look at it. And so just encouraging different types of people to run. But unfortunately, nobody really wanted to run. And so I was like, well, if no one's going to run, I guess I'm going to have to do it. And it was a blessing in its moment as well, because I was getting encouraged to run for the first time. And I've ran before and I've done very, very well. I never got over that percentage. And so this time is a little bit different and it's nonpartisan. So it's a whole nother game changer for me, because usually I am pretty partisan. But, it's like, let me show you what I can do as an individual. They like the ideas of my network, my policy, my platform. And they're like, you're pretty good to help the school district set to a new standard, I guess you can say, with public policy and budgeting and making sure that things are accountable on the top heavy level. And so I'm a graduate student too. I'm getting my doctoral in public policy with Liberty University, and I study economic policy. And so I'm very good at what I do. I have amazing state and federal networking and investors networking. I just came back from a retreat, like we were talking about before, about encouraging women to run for office. So I wear many hats, and we're just like, hey, let's just give it a try. We know how it feels. My team knows how it feels to say no. It's not your time yet, and we'll try something else, because I tell people no is not no. No is a learning lesson, and where your strengths and your weaknesses are, and to reevaluate, because you should always have goals. So I have goals personally, but my biggest thing is being a voice for those students, for the teachers, for the staff, for the administration, and even the members that are sitting on that board, and then also the community and investors. And then being proactive with the state and federal government to make sure that they're paying attention to us, as well as the Texas Board of Education. I asked, some people, hey, do you even know who our rep is? They do not know. So that shows that there's a lack of communication from that state to local in our area. And I'm like, hey, if I get in, these are the things I can do. And this is how I work. It's unlike anybody else's platform. And I'm really proud of it, because this is why all those other doors were not open for me. I think was led to here by God. I believe in my faith and stuff like that first as well. So just from a biblical perspective, I entrust in God's journey for me. So I just said, hey, you know what? I'm not doing this for myself. I never have done this for myself. I just want to see our community get respect, get resources, as well as get new avenues of opportunity. So especially being a mom, I have 3 kids, and they go to private school right now, but they will be transitioning to public school when they get out of private school, because again, our faith comes first. And so they go to Catholic school at St. Elizabeth, and our eldest is actually going to orientation, I think, next month for William Adams Middle School. So she'll be transferring as a 7th grader. But we're proactive as taxpayers. Our family has been, I'm a graduate with the school district, my father and my mother as well. So we have generationals inside the school district. Our business has had connections with their school district by sponsoring things or allowing them to fundraise or promote their stuff here at our store and our business. I work with other nonprofits that deal with students and families, like foster care and outreach and stuff like that throughout my whole life. So I tell people, as well as participating in nutrition as a chef, that was one of the things too. So I just wanted to show all those skill sets that, and hopefully voters can see that there is a difference between me and anybody else on that ballot, and hopefully entrusted me with their vote during early voting, which is April 22nd through 29th, no weekends, at the Jim Wells County Courthouse, and then also on Election Day, which is Saturday, May 3rd, again at the Jim Wells County Courthouse. And with this particular race, you just have to win by the highest rate on the highest vote count. So literally, we could win by one vote, but it's going to be dependent on who shows up to the polls. So going back, the reason why we're running, and I always say we, because I don't think it's just me that's running, because what I do is I voice for the majority, not a selective group of people. I don't believe in those kind of cases. And so what I do is I respectfully analyze every single way of voting strategy to make sure this is what I'm doing to represent those people who entrusted their votes with my professionalism to get the job done, to help the school district flourish and again find new ways of opportunities. And I believe that strongly that this is the right time for that.
A lot being said there, and I like a lot of it. It seems like you want to make a positive impact on Alice and the school district, the kids, the future, because that's what they are. The kids are the future. And if we
Absolutely.
don't invest into these kids, the future is going to be very bleak. So, with all that being said, what do you think the current state of the Alice School District is at this moment?
Yeah, so right now we're at the standard. I know when it comes to financials, they're good on their financials. Their ratings are kind of wonky or whatever. But this is a transition. You've seen multiple superintendents come in throughout the last 10 years. Board members have been stagnant and same as well. So we can't really define the school district in one particular variable, because of the fact that it's supposed to be ever moving, like it's supposed to be consistently moving and adjusting while the school year is going, right? We saw that they're pushing really hard on attendance. Well, it's because also the fact that the state funding and federal funding rely on those percentages. The transparency and accountability is really important, to know those policies, how they can grab some funding and what other avenues they can grab their funding from. The teachers' pay, salary, and stuff like that goes through that budgetary, expertise and recommendations. We need to make sure that we are, allocating what is needed to be responsible in economics as well. What's our population? Look at those kind of. I would love to see some kind of studies being done with similar populations, similar demographics. So, like the school district right now, to me, is there's always room for growth, and there's always going to be room for change, and respectfully as well. Because my thing is, you're not coming into these kind of positions to weed everything out. It's impossible. And I don't lie. I'm a pretty open book as well. I've always been that way. And we have to remember, school board is the responsible of like the budget, the policy, and making sure the superintendent's doing their job, right? That's pretty much what they're there for. Everything else is just a perk or a initiative to help. For me, I'm going to be very, very hard on policy because that's my expertise. And I'm going to also be very hard on budget because that's economic policy is another one of my things. I've been on many boards, local, for example, I've sat on the housing board for the city of Alice, dealing with federal funding and state funding, as a local identity. And then I'm also on a state board appointed by the governor with the Commission on Fire Protection. Again, state budgeting, accreditations, and policy. So there's always going to be something to grow. I know everybody has their niche, from special ed, from nutrition, from sports, from athletics to the academic, the teacher perspective, the community perspective, the parent, after school program. There's so much going on. It's impossible to put it on one person, but it's great to have a, like, what are you good at? What are you good at? And like, you have your advocates to get those attentions and to work with those department heads to, say, hey, you're good here, but what is our 5-year plan? What is our 3-year plan? What is our 1-year plan, 6-month plan? Are we stale? Like, are we just settling for what we're doing, or can we rise above the expectations? Because you're always competing with other school districts as well. And also, we want to help our economy. So we want to help teachers come work here, staff, different type of staff members to come work. I tell people all the time, it's not just teachers that we need to talk about. We need to talk about janitorial. We need to talk about nutritional. We need to talk about the psychology, social working. There's, special ed, like there's, and then you got your art teachers and there's so many different levels of personnel. Right. And then you have your booster clubs that you want to support and be a cheerleader for, those kind of things. And, it's a community circle, and it's a web of this united front. And also, we have to bring in, okay, we have more population. We have more teachers coming here. Will they live here? That kind of stuff. Will they, eventually, would they start a business here? Will they bring their kids here? Are we going to need more rooms? Are we going to need more teachers? Are we going to need more schools eventually down the line, right? We want to see Alice ISD contribute to all of that. And I think with the current right now is that we're settled, but we haven't made that firecracker initiative. And I think if I got in, that's what we would kind of like move forward. But again, I'm one person out of those 7, right? So the interest of the other members are going to be really important. Can they wing what I'm pitching out? Can they understand? Can they comprehend? Are they for? Are they against? And my thing is, if the people want this, we should at least try. And if it doesn't work, okay, and explain to them respectfully, it doesn't work. We know that they want to be an A rating school with academics. It's gonna take time. It doesn't happen overnight. We go from a D to an A like in 1 year. Be realistic. My thing is, out of respect for everybody, I think, we just need a new wave of individuals with different structures to help those administrators get back to what the basics are. We need to let our teachers teach and our students flourish, and sit back and make sure that everything is in the ducks are in a row. And so right now, that's where I'm at. Like, that's how I see it. There's positive and negative. Of course, there's that 15 minutes of drama and then it moves on. Of course, that's life. Everybody has a voice now, especially with social media, First Amendment rights, that kind of thing. But we have to do it the right ways, because this is a governmental identity, right? Public schools are ran by the government. So we need to make sure that we are in policy and we go forward making those strategic planning is really, really important. And I know that they do that because they have their little meetings, and they have school board meetings, and they have trainings and so forth. But at the same time, if we're not seeing a proactive approach where we're having committees being made and or what they called what is it called? There's like a group of people, an ad hoc committee, that's professionalism to be in these things. Those are the kind of things I would like to see here. Not just an appointment, oh, you, and you, because they want to, personal agenda to get on things, right? No, I want to see, if we're going to focus on economics, we're going to focus on economics. If we're going to see on educational policy, we're going to get some really good people that have background and, to have those ad hoc committees. And then hopefully that will help those directors that will respond to the educators or staff members, or even the directors that are on the other side and their staff members, right? And then of course we have to encourage students because we want our students to become whatever they want to be, to live their American dream, have the opportunities that we didn't have, or their families may not have, but they have ambitions. Everybody has a place for their own journey and their own path, and there's nothing wrong or less of a person for taking accreditation is really important, and going to medical school, or somebody just graduating, and going to work. It's okay. Or, even becoming a stay at home mom is a lot of work,
For
and
sure.
so I tell people, like, you need to focus on you, and if you have problems, HR is supposed to help with those things. If you're not getting a voice heard, go to your school board. If you're not getting your school board, you go to the state. People will call me and be like, hey, I have a question. What do I do? And I tell them, like, it's a brigade system, the governmental brigade system. If you're having issues, you go through these tiers. My thing is it going to find a solution that's positive for that person? It's a 50-50 chance. It could be positive or it could be negative. I'm not the deciding factor, but I will be that connector. And I think with me, I would be an asset to the school board because I feel like I'm that connector voice, that if there was an issue or there was a bump in the road or we need to strive for this and that, and going in, during a transitional, because we do know there's open seats with this board, with this particular set of, there's 4 places on this particular slate. So we have an open seat, and then the incumbents are all running, and then one challenger for those are coming against, right? So we're just kind of at this point, I think, is it okay? Yes. Can it be better? Definitely. Is it up to the school board? There's a percentage. Because my thing is, it's a percentage. It is up to, because you have to remember, half the school board is already in place and half can be changed. So they have to work together. So the future of Alice Independent School District is a 50-50 thing. But I think there's some great, in all the places, I think everybody's wonderful. I think everybody has something to bring to the table. They're all different. You can't judge one over another because they're completely different, right? But their strengths are different, and what is needed for, I tell people all the time, what do you think is needed for our school district? And a lot of people, it is the policy, it is the financial, it is the attention for a particular program. So my thing is, that means you are saying you need an outreach voice, a community voice, somebody who is vocal and is not scared to not promote, but an advocate for these avenues to see what will work for, everybody as a majority. And they have to understand that just because you complain about one thing doesn't mean you're the majority either.
There's a way to do it though, and a lot of the problem is the parents online, especially on Facebook, it's just pure bashing and attack. That's the only way that I've noticed the Alice community knows how to address an issue is by bashing and attacking and tearing down someone else to make their point come across. And there's got to be a better way about it, because if you try to make a positive change out of negativity, it's just never going to work. And unfortunately, in that town, a lot of negativity is considered normal. And
Yes.
I grew up there my whole life, and I'll tell you right now, not much has changed. I go every 2 weeks to go see my son, who's
Mm-hmm.
also special needs.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, there's a lot of change that needs to happen for the policies, because I just saw his report card yesterday. His mother sent it to me. And now, granted, I'm not trying to talk down on my son at all. I'm just being a realistic,
Yeah.
straightforward parent. My son, with his autism, he is nonverbal. I know for sure the kid can't read, because if he
Mm-hmm.
can't speak, he can't read. I've never even seen him look at a page for more than 2 seconds. He's just not interested in a book. In English class, he's passing. In math, he's passing. Science, passing. Social studies, passing. And I asked her, his mom, out of just being straightforward. If he's not able to read, how is he able to pass reading? How is he able to pass any of these subjects if he cannot read the material and do it? And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. They say he's been doing good." And I'm like, "Well, what does that mean? Are you asking questions? Like, what does that mean?" And she's like, "No, I don't ask." So I'm like, why wouldn't you ask? Because it doesn't make sense. If you know your child and the paper saying it doesn't match up, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I can't even get an update from his teachers because thing is, I live in San Antonio.
Mhm.
So unless I'm there in person with my ID, they will not talk to me. Even if the mother gives them my information and says, yes, that's the father, like all that stuff, they will not give me no updates. I cannot call about my son. They won't even do a Zoom call with me to get information about my son. I have to go in person. And unfortunately, I live in San Antonio, right? And with all the inflation that's gone on, price of living, you can't really afford to miss work during the week. And if you do, oh my goodness, that sets you back tremendously. But yeah, like there's a problem there. And I'm not saying the teachers aren't trying to do their job because I understand kids with special needs are very difficult, especially my child. I'm very well aware. So I know they're doing what they can. It's just if he's not understanding the material, then he shouldn't just be getting passed on. And it happened to a lot of us when I was in high school. I graduated in 2016. I'll tell you right now, I was passed on. There's no there's no reason why I should have graduated on time. Even in my junior year in physics class, okay, I don't understand algebra to a point. So if you mixing algebra and science together, there's just no way it's gonna work because I already don't understand half the material. So in physics class, I remember I won't say his name. I don't know if he's still there at the school or not. So I'll keep his reputation good. But I had like about a 62, I think, at the end of the semester for both semesters. And he literally curved me up to a 72 and he told me, "I just don't want to see you here again." Just straight up told me that as he gave me the curve. And he curved at least 8 kids in that same class.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not the only class that did stuff like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is policy, sure, that needs to change, but we also need teachers who care more about the students and just don't pass these kids on because if they're not ready, they're not ready. And you just need to have that hard conversation with the parents that these kids are just not ready to move on. And if that upsets them, oh well, but I rather you upset a parent and do what's right for the child rather than send them to the real world where they're not going to excel. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're not ready. Like, what are they supposed to do?
Absolutely. I tell my kids coaches, I tell my kids teachers, like accountability is important to our family. We teach that at home. So if there is something, let us know. If they're behavioral, let us know. One time my daughter went into, this is when she was like, I think like in first or second grade. She went to all the bathrooms and she locked all the bathrooms, and I get a phone call that she went under the doors and locked all the mechanisms to the bathroom doors. And I go, that's a strange thing for a little girl to do.
For sure.
And I was like, was she scared? Like was she like, was there no toilet paper? Like you're thinking all these random thoughts. Well, we go and I talked to her, and she said the weirdest thing. Not weird, different. Different. Let me rephrase that. It was very different. The way of her thinking was different than mine and the teachers. And what it was, she noticed that one of the stalls had a different mechanism of closure for the door. And of course, she doesn't understand this because she didn't realize one of the doors was handicap accessible.
Yeah, for sure.
So she was going through the doors underneath the stalls, locking them to understand why is this door different than those other two doors.
An active mind. That's all it was.
Yeah. So I went back and I talked to the principal at that time, and I talked to the teachers at that time. She wasn't trying to be mean because they were like, oh, she's locking the doors, kids can't go to the restroom, right? It's rude and it's unsanitary because she's on the floor crawling through the doors. And I was like, we got it all wrong. We got it all wrong. Like both the parent and the teachers and the principal, I go, she was like doing like a science experiment. trying to understand why the mechanism on that one door was different compared to the other two. And this is a child that is very intelligent. She has the highest AR points, and she's a big reader. And she doesn't have to study or anything like that. And we're just kind of like, the way she thinks is just way different compared to her other peers, right? And I was just like, so as for accountability, I went and apologized to the principal and apologized to the teacher. And also as a parent, I made her write a letter apologizing to the teacher and apologizing to the principal, and explaining in her letter I was trying to figure something out. So in her own tone, in her own voice. So like we have kids that are on spectrums that are different, right? And sometimes as adults we panic with anxiety and like because we're always on defense, because our society is naturally, because of social media, because everything is out there now, from a psychological standpoint, is that we are always on defense. Like it's either wrong or right, and there's never any gray areas. But in some particular cases, there's going to be a gray area, and this is one of those things. And I think it's having good, strong foundations from home starts number one. Understanding that children and other, even adults, think and do differently, and being compassionate is another thing, because we're not a compassionate society anymore. We're a
At
defensive.
all.
We're a
At
defensive
all.
society, and so I think if we have good people, not everybody, and you're not going to change the mindset of everybody. And that's why I tell people I cannot fix X. X has to fix itself, but I can tell X if they need me, I have resources. But it's your will of life, your responsibility, your accountability. And that's what we kind of do with our kids, and we have 3 kids. We have 11, a 9, and a 7. And, I tell people all the time, you might think I'm a hard parent, but they don't see that. They
We
think
need more hard parents.
they see a normal accountability, and they're proud of their parent. That's another thing too. You see the child saying, "Mom, I'm proud of you. You're trying this. Dad, I'm proud of you. You're doing that. Thank you." Those basic societal appreciations, even with social media and their tablets as rewards, like, or going to the aquarium or going to SeaWorld or going here and there, and doing other things. They understand. Even my 7-year-old at a very young age understands, and we understand. Some kids do not understand, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I say do what is best for yourself and be accountable, because that's your control. And also, if you have children, do what's best for them and be accountable. But not everybody is going to have that background. And, going back to the education part, is sometimes we're overwhelmed as adults, right, with responsibilities, because you have to remember they're human too. Their moms, their grandmas, their grandpas, their dads, their uncles, they have lives outside, which is their right. There's a lot of kids in classrooms, different types of styles. What are their resources? Are they paying it out of their own pocket? Are there bumps in the road with testing, like that kind of stuff? Like, how many years have they been teaching? Are they a first year, or are they a veteran 20 year in? There's a lot of different things. And then of course societal changes, right? Now kids are more very, very vocal, and the parent is passive. For example, we were at Chick-fil-A one day, and the child literally bullied the parent right in front of us, and I was like, whoa, like, it was
That's a
hard.
big problem.
It was, yeah, and they let it happen. And my thing is, this was not the first time, and this is not going to be the last time. And then you're wondering why your kids are the way they are. And it's like, okay, we're not supposed to be friends with our children. We're supposed to love and care and nurture our children. And, it's all back to societal expectations. And it's called, in my professionalism, it's called normalization of deviance. So our normalization is when a one person or one variable literally says this is the right way, and everybody else kind of does the sheep thing and they think it's all the right way. But all this time, this one person knew it was wrong. Whether it was because of being lazy, whether it's being negative or, deceivant, I don't know, right? But society said, okay, this is how we're going to have to do it, because it's just normal. It becomes an everyday deal. So, we try to tell parents and try to advocate, this is bigger than you and I. What's going on here, it's going to take years, but it needs to start with reform. Reform is really, really good. Brain thinking and finding solutions and even like creating some kind of path. Brainstorming, that's what I meant to say. Is really key. Working respectively, even with people you disagree with. That is so important. Some people cannot stand it. But guess what? It needs to be done. You need to be in a room and talk it out with someone you don't like or something that happened, because you find peace that way. You can move forward. And I think, as a community, being transparent and showing your life inspires other people. This is why I take my kids to the events that I do. I take my daughter. She's been to the governor's inauguration. She's been to the Fire Commission protection meetings. I've taken, my kids to public outings. When I have events for my campaigns or somebody else's campaigns, we include them. And sometimes we'll ask their friends from school, hey, do y'all want to come and do this too? Because the opportunities are there for everybody. It's not just us. And we want other people to that I don't care where you come from. I don't care if you have one mom, a grandma, you're a foster kid. My thing is, if the opportunity and the permission is there for you to do something, go for it. Especially if you want to. If a kid is really interested in a particular, I like rocks, or I like science or law enforcement, take them. It's okay. We've been very blessed that, the people around us, even my interns, I do interns for high school students. And my very first intern is such a blessing because I've seen her growth, and she's a young woman now, and about to graduate from UT, about to apply for law school. She interned at the Capitol her freshman year with Janie Lopez, the state rep from the Brownsville area. So these are opportunities that, like I said, the connecting. I'm not going to do your work for you. You have to earn it, but I can connect you. If you're interested in military school, academies, trade schools, going to work, starting your own business, even becoming a parent, you need help and resources. Or, like with us, we had fertility issues. So we've advocated for IVF and IUI and fertility and insurance policy a long time ago. And that's how we got started with government, with our family. And so we've helped like 8 couples, with that journey. And even some individuals as well, because there's some people that do not want the family typical structure. But I tell people, you have the rights to do what you want to do. But our thing is our children's book, everything kind of goes together, from our store to our children's book, the road trips to just being proactive in the community, inspiring and seeing your fruits of labor after 10 years or 20 years of doing something and saying that person got inspired. Like someone will come up to me like, hey, you inspired me. I'm going to run for office. Hey, you inspired me. I'm getting married, or I'm going to college, or, I'm starting my own business. Like, I hear those stories, and you don't realize until you grow as your individual self, you helped without even knowing that you helped, and that's kind of like my father and my grandfather. They're my biggest role models, as well as my mother. My mother was the homekeeper, right? And my father was the worker. It was just us 3 growing up. I'm from a very small family, and everybody else had siblings, and I was kind of like my own thing. Seeing how they will give the shirts off their back. If there's an accident, you get off your car and you go help. You call 911, those kind of things. Like, it should be second nature. Like, it should just like, boom, like you got to do it. But most people will not do that. They consider it a renaissance you would hear the term Renaissance man or Renaissance person or Renaissance woman. It's literally someone that's able to do a lot of things for not only themselves, for our society, and it's a dying breed it's a type of person, those characteristics. And, I'm really proud that people say that about myself and the family that I am, born into. They say, hey, that person, he's been a teacher, he's been a construction worker. My father, he worked at Burger King, he went to the military, he became a policeman, he owns his own business, like, those kind of things. And it's like, I have this and this, and it's not that you're tooting your horn. It's like you were born that way. You were born blessed that you could, help somebody else with the skills you have. And I think that's what a true Renaissance person is. And so we need to go back to those basic characteristics. We need to let our teachers teach. We need to show compassion and find new avenues. Like, my thing is with nonverbal, like your son, are they providing sign language? Is sign language there? I don't know.
Nope.
Braille accessibility there? I don't know. I'm not inside just yet. And I'm hoping our voters and our society and our cultural society understands that I'm not here to take things away. I'm here to give you more, to make you think outside the box. And I told people when they asked me, why did you write a book? It took me 2 days to write that book. It took me literally 2 days to write it, 2 days to edit, another 2 days for my husband to edit, another 2 days for me to do the digital illustrations, and maybe 2 to 4 days to do the templates on the PDF and the digital formatting that is on the computer. So the book was, and then of course we had to edit, like, because we never did printing, so we had to have a few author's copies to adjust the book, because we were like, okay, that's wrong, this is right. So it probably took honestly like 2 weeks to finish everything, and we released at the end of the month. And I tell people, if I can do that, you can do that. Like, you don't have to wait for a publisher to come out anymore, that kind of thing. And so, I tell people, if you want to be self-published and be an indie writer, go to YouTube, go look at KDP programs or Barnes and Noble. They have opportunities to do it with them. There's different programs, and parents like, oh, I always wanted to write a book. Or I'll have like a veteran, they want to put out their story. Comic books, like my kids, like, they love to draw and stuff. My second daughter, Elena, loves to make comic books. And I'm like, you can actually make those with these programs on your own. You have to invest in yourself. But, like I said, it's all about connecting and having an outlet. And I think over here in Alice, sometimes there is an animosity with sharing the outlet. And my thing is, there's different ways to share. Everybody, of course, wants to be special, and everybody wants to have their time in the spotlight. But the work is the work, and it has to be consistent. And so, going to the library, we had like, oh, can you write another book? We like your book. And I actually had somebody tell me one of the children that they purchased the book for was autistic. And they found the book with the grandparent. The grandparent read them the book, and then they actually started reading out loud the book. And the parent was like shocked, and they came back that following Monday and let me know, like, the kid took the book and read it like 4 or 5 times over the weekend, and they were just like, he naturally bonded with the story, and every kid is going to be different. But I was just like, hey, cool, it worked for somebody.
For sure. And that's all
Was,
that matters, as long
yeah,
as you help
I
at least
was
one
like,
person.
yeah, and we didn't do this because we wanted money. Like, I didn't do this because I want to travel the world and be a national bestseller or anything like that. It was just like God's time, God's time saying, hey, just do it, see what happens. And, I've had people like, come to San Antonio, come to the Valley, go read at this library. And I'm just like, in God's time, that's how I kind of do it. And because we're not in a rush. I think, we're always in a rush to do things, and they're like, you're doing 1,000 things at one time. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm capable of doing 1,000 things, and it's okay.
That's what I tell my friends all the time. They tell me the same thing.
Yeah,
They don't get it.
they don't get
Our
it.
brains work a little different. It takes a little bit more to get us where we need to be. Because like right now, I do the podcast, I do YouTube, I do streaming. We're doing short films. I wrote the whole scripts for these movies that we're doing. I'm part of the acting. And I also, people don't know this, but I'm also in development of making a video game of the short films.
Okay.
So we're filming first, but while we're filming, I'm studying all this stuff about video game creation. Shout out to Mr. Trevino. He used to teach video game designing in Alice High School. Don't know if he's still there, but if he is, he's the reason why all that started. And I'm doing all these things, and my friends are like, "Dude, you're gonna get burnt out. You're gonna get burnt out. Like it's just no way." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go to the clubs, I don't go to bars, I don't go do anything, I don't gamble. This is my addiction. I like to do this type of stuff. And this type of stuff is productive. And I'm not doing it for money, but I am aware that eventually my buddy just messaged me. I am aware eventually this stuff leads to profit.
Yeah,
And when that happens, awesome. I don't even care if I make $2 off it. I just want to do it just for the fun of it.
you should.
Yeah, I completely relate to what you're saying because we just have to do so many things because that's just how we are as people. We just I don't know if you relate to this. I can't just sit on a couch for 5 days straight, do a 9 to 5 and then just come home, watch Netflix, eat dinner and go to bed. I just can't do that. That is to me that is the biggest waste of life. It's just
Mhm.
to do that for 30, 40 years until you die. Like I
Yeah,
can't. That's a waste of your youth.
yeah. And you remind me of somebody that, again, like in that Renaissance category, that it is naturally just like themselves and with the no expectation of strings attached. That's the beauty about that type of personality. Is like you're gonna do what's best for you, and I applaud you for that. And honestly, like, you're pretty young, so I want to say I went to school with your gaming teacher.
Victor?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I don't know
what's
how
his
he is
name?
outside of school, but I've
Yeah.
seen him one time at a function before he was a video game teacher at
Yeah.
Alice High School. He was friends with my old stepdad's girlfriend. I was over there for a weekend. They had a little barbecue. I didn't know him at the time, but he showed up and he was there part of the function. He was a very cool guy. And then 2, 3 years later, yeah, 3 years later, he's in my classroom teaching me, and I'm like, "Hey, I remember you. You were getting hammered." And he's like, "Hey, we don't talk about that." But yeah, I
Well,
forget these
yeah,
people are actual people too. Like you
they're
just think your
people.
teachers are there and they live, breathe, and sleep the school, and then that's it. That's their whole life. But
Yeah.
I just had a podcast with Dr. Daniels. He's a superintendent in Dulce,
Uh-huh.
and he was telling me his story and what he was doing while he was my teacher. He had 2 jobs. I never even knew. And he was telling me his whole struggle behind that part of his life. And I told him I would have never known because in our eyes, you're our teacher. Usually a teacher has their life put together because why else would they be in a position to teach kids? You just think they know everything. And whole time he was just a young man trying to figure it out himself. And
Absolutely.
it's humbling because as a teenager, you don't think about life in that perspective. It's just everything's you think you know everything, everything's black and white, but you're just in a world full of gray, and you just have to find the pieces and color them in.
Yeah. So now we're just like, we're talking about a different book. I'm trying to finish my research for my doctoral, and I just, the campaign trail and the kids and the family and the store. It's a lot, but it's what I love. And that's what I told my mom. My mom recently got surgery, so I was at home with her. She's actually at the store today, so it's nice. But I told her, like, hey, like, I know that I have responsibility with the family. I'm the only one. I don't have siblings, so that kind of responsibility is a huge one. Um, but at the same time, I love what I do. Like, I wake up for it. I go to sleep for it. I'm always consistently dreaming about this and that or whatever. Meeting new people is so neat. Like this weekend, I met some amazing women from all over Texas doing a powwow with them in Fredericksburg, from attorneys to professors to business women to, to mothers, like all sorts from different age groups as well. different backgrounds. And so, like, it was so inspiring because they entrust in you and you entrust in them, and then they want to see growth, and they're pushing you. And some people think pushing somebody is, again, defensive, right? Like, don't push me so hard, right? You get kind of agitated. But we need to be pushed. We need to have those icebreakers. We need to go over that line to see our true potential. And I think our area, believe it or not, the last 10 years that I have been in politics locally, it was always the same thing happening. And then we started challenging. That's when it changed. And now there's seats that are being switched. And, there is motivation for other people to run, and try it out and put their toes in the water and bring out their own platform. I tell people there's people watching you. There's people that may not talk to you, but they're like, man, I wish I could do that. And I encourage them, do it, because you only have one life to live, and don't waste it sitting on a couch. Like, don't waste it regretting, or waste it thinking I could, or maybe I should. Just try it out, and whatever life brings to you. And even if it doesn't work out, it might open a new wave of success for you, way on the other spectrum of something. For example, I started out as a pregnant, with my second child, questioning community member with our local party here. I would never have thought after that I would become a precinct chair. I would become a outreach committee director. I would become the first young Hispanic woman to run a local party in our area successfully. Flipping a county from 100 years of being blue to red, in 2020, running again for office.
That's
Running
a
again
crazy
for
topic
office.
itself.
Then getting involved with political action committees, getting involved with these state and federal candidates, getting involved with presidential candidates, getting involved with governor candidates, Senate, getting invited to go to inaugurations at the Capitol in Austin, as well as Washington, D.C. If you told me 10 years ago that was all going to happen, I would have said you're lying, and I would never do those things. But you just have to roll with the punches.
I definitely do want to dial in because I know we've talked a lot about basically the structure of Alice and the ISD part and how crazy the world can be. But we're transitioning into all your accomplishments and how far you came the last 10 years. And it's truly inspiring, honestly, because not many people from Alice ever do anything. So when you have someone that actually goes above and beyond to do something with themselves and create a legacy with their name, like, I give all the kudos to that because that's rare. And I think we're in a generation now where that's changing and a lot of people are wanting to do things and create and build. And I'm hoping this is the start of a new wave for the
Yeah.
town to bring something new because I feel like it's not just Alice ISD, it's just where we come from, a lot of small towns, even surrounding towns. I think it's just a lot of being stagnant and being okay with being in the middle.
And they're scared. They're scared too.
Yeah, and they don't want change. It's like not to get too crazy, but the state of Texas, a lot of it is just old fashioned ways that, some of it does work and some of it is good, but there's a lot of things that need to change because the world changes so much. I mean, I graduated in 2016, and I can tell you right now, the world's already completely different from when I graduated high school. I'm only 27 years old, and from 18 to 27, it's like, damn, if you don't try to keep up with the times, you will get lost so quick, you know?
Sure.
So I want to know pretty much, and I'm pretty sure everyone watching this episode, they want to know your policies, right? What are the top 5 things you're looking to do while being in the position you're trying to be in?
Yeah, so policies for me is going to be term limits. I believe in term limits. I don't believe anybody should be in office for over 10 years on a four. So, like, we have in the state of Texas, you have 2-year terms, 4-year terms, and 6-year terms. And there should be a promise to constituents that you will, let it go. Government, you're not supposed to, I know school board, you don't get compensated, but in other areas they do. So my thing is, regardless of compensation or not, there needs to be a flesh out, so that's one thing I really believe in. I've always spoke highly importance is term limits. I believe a 2-year term should have 3 terms. I believe a 4 and 6-year term should have 2 terms. And I understand that they're like, hey, a 4-year term, 2 terms, you're getting your feet wet the first one and you're just getting things rolled out the second one. I said, I understand that, but in my head, 4 years is a long time. That's 8 years. It's definitely a long time. I say the first 2 years, you're getting your feet wet. The second 2 years, you should be starting to get comfortable. But by the second term, you're rolling out your comfortability, and then you are executing your exit with the other. So that's how I see it. The same thing with the 6, that kind of thing. With school board, for this particular school board, it's a 4-year term. And I've told people, like, I believe in opportunities too. So, and also responsibility, because I want somebody to replace, if I got in, I would love to see somebody not similar, because that's not an expectation, but continue to work on, willing to continue to work on and make it their own as well. But in the point of betterment for the kids, the staff, the teachers, the administration, the overall school board, again, the community. And I think there's some great people that you can do that with, that try over this last, I think, like, I've noticed the last, like, 2 to 3, maybe 4 elections for school board. So that means half of them ran twice and the other half ran twice, right? There were some good candidates, but they can't get in. They can't get in because of the X variable. And I'm not going to talk about that here, but there is an understanding there's some unethical things, right? And then we have nepotism. Nepotism big in small communities because, the family connection, how much, the relation of family. The small communities, I always tell people, most likely you're related by 5. Every 5 people you're probably related to, because families have not moved away. New families are not really moving in. So genetically, they're probably linked somewhere, or by marriage. Term limits, number 1. Would it work of advocating that? It could. Can it be a voted item for an election for our citizens to vote and pick if that's something that they would want? Absolutely. We can talk about putting that on a ballot, especially if there's like a bond, that kind of thing. You can connect it to those kind of things, or in the upcoming election, the other cycle that will come in 27, that kind of thing. Is there a way to get term limits as a policy, as a charter change? I would have to look into that and talk with the lawyers at the school board and look deeper into that. But if that's the case, I really think this is an opportunity for growth and moving forward and seeing the true potential of our school district. So, because right now, I think, from what I hear and what I see and what I notice, it's a lot of passing down the torch of a particular group setting. That becomes what they call elitism, and very powerful. And then we start getting compromised and government overreaching. A lot of people don't know those words here. A lot of people don't know that education, a policy. It all comes from what they call a statesmanship perspective of democracy and being ethical and using your ethics to make sure that the government is not in vain, ill-intended, persona agendaed, what they call cronies.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that word personally. It makes me giggle.
It's a funny word for sure.
Yeah, so, and we go to crony ideologies, and, a lot of people do not know. Our society is not educated in those ways. And when I talk to people, they're like, what did you just say? What did you just say? I
They're
don't
like, I
understand.
don't understand what you said, so now I'm offended.
Yes.
And they get scared, and then I get, well, she's mean, and I'm like, I'm not mean. I'm one of the nicest people ever. I will literally, like, a day or two ago before I left to Fredericksburg, somebody, their car got stopped, and me and my husband got out of the car to help them. Like, like I said, we're just those types of people. If we see something, that needs somebody that needs help, we will do our best to help them in the in the situation. And so term limits. We want to not have government overreach. We don't need other governments in our school districts influencing them. And that's another thing too. So with those term limits, you're stopping that power trip. So the cronies start downsizing, and then giving opportunities for change when society changes as well. So like you said, you graduated in 16, I graduated in 02. It's a completely different world. What your needs are then and what your needs are now to what they're presently needed is completely different. But my thing is, we have to say, who are the teachers, where do they come from, the staff members, where do they come from? What's their backgrounds? We need to have some etiquette here. And again, I think term limits and having that flush consistently, then we stop having so much animosity as well. And that animosity will stop bringing in some negativity. Is everybody going to be happy with everything? No, absolutely not. Is
There's
it
no
going to be
such thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a circus regardless. But the power can be decreased. Is it going to go away 100%? No, it'll never go away. Sadly, we're not in a perfect world. We're not utopia. We've had historical, lordships, that kind of stuff. And I tell people, read Victorian literature and then call me tomorrow. That's the best example you can see. It's going to happen in house. The maid does something, the butler does something, the sister does something to the other sister. It's just how it is. But can we decrease it? Absolutely. And the first thing to decrease it is having term limits. Having term limits is a beautiful thing. And also it's responsible with government. And then another policy thing with me is looking at the standards of what the board does and creating like I said, professional ad hoc committees with board members so they can help influence some legislation or policy changes at a different perspective. That's number two for me. I'm really big on policy. Just one policy could be like 100 pages all on its own. I tell people like it's not black and white. They're gonna add things in it. It's just like a bill that the Senate and the House have to give to the governor. You think it's about one thing, we'll say like school choice or increase in teacher pay, right? But it
Teachers need to get
actually,
paid more for sure.
so like that's what the top is. But read the rest of it. Is the rest good? Sometimes it's not. It tricks you. It's like taking the LSAT.
When I
It's
was
there to trick you.
when I was a senior, our history book was from 2001, and I told my teacher, I was like, how come we don't have anything that's like a little bit more modern? Like 2001 seems very old for a textbook to have in this classroom. They're like,
Yeah.
he literally looked at me. I won't say his name, but he looked at me. He's like, funding. They rather have a football team, and I was like, damn, because I play sports too. So I was like, around that age, I was like, damn, they really do prioritize athletics instead of education in this school. You know what I mean?
But
That became a thing.
yeah, but if you're not at standard with grades, you cannot participate. So it goes hand in hand.
Well, that's when we got passed on so we could play the game on Friday. It happened a lot, and it
That's
happens a
actually
lot.
it. I actually have one of my professors, Dr. McDonald. She has a great document that she sent me. That is actually with ethics.
Hmm.
That is the ethics. And for us as professionals, or even a teacher or a parent, is you should always hold your ethics standards and for us it's faith as well. I go to a Christian school. Our faith and our standards at the highest rim of anything that we decide. or our votes or a policy change or who we're supporting, those kind of things, what we're buying, from an economic standpoint. If it doesn't fit there, we should not comply. If it doesn't fit there, you don't need to downgrade your ethics to make it work. Because guess what? It's not working. And you're just harming yourself. And also, you're becoming a normalization deviance person in society, or a crony, or you can say you just want to be a sheep, or you can say you want to be underlooked, like you just want to slide under the radar, right? So, of course, everybody's ethical code and moral code can be different as well from our culture. Men versus our genders, men, and women might have different standards, our faiths, that kind of thing. But in government, it should align what the government is based off of. And in U.S. government and Texas government, it's constitutional.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, there you go. And it should be common sense. Like,
It's not common, unfortunately.
because our society wanted to be under the radar. We want to be left alone. We don't want to talk about these things. It doesn't matter to most of us. We just want to live our life and not have to be reminded about these things.
But that's part of life. You can't ignore that.
Yeah. And the thing is, until it matters to you in that aha moment, like for me, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't talk the way I did either. Like, if you met me when I was younger, I did not talk like this. I did not think like this. I didn't grow like this. It was when my doctor said, hey, you need to make a choice. Do you want to get treatments, or do you want to risk your life and possibly not have children? And I was an executive at that time, give up my corporate job and make myself healthy and happy and wholesome. And it changed me. It changed me for the better. And it opens so many opportunities. And I tell people that is when I had my aha moment. I was like 27, I think. Yeah, I had Elliot when I was 28. So I was like 26, 27. I was a newlywed. I just moved back to Corpus from Austin. Like, I was not religious whatsoever. And I worked for corporate. I wanted the corporate Americana dream, the condo, the no children, the dog, which was perfectly fine and it fit us. But then when you have a life-changing scare that they say the word cancer, they say the cells, they say you may die, like, it changes you. And I got to learn about healthcare policy. I got to learn about women's health. I got to learn about insurance policy and how the state works with the corporations. And Texas is one of the 12 states that, was one of the first states to allow fertility treatments on policies, but we are not getting them because of teenage pregnancy in South Texas. And so the policy is actually really, really high cost.
Yeah, that was pretty bad when I was in school.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think, not to cut you off or nothing, but I think
okay.
a big problem with that is the content that's being played in the households.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, rap music videos were super sexualized, and our parents, I mean, not mine in particular, mine was I used to hate this about my mom because it was so annoying to me, but now that I'm older, I understand it was for my my betterment. A lot of parents, they play these videos in front of their kids who are like in elementary to middle school, and you're exposing all that on a young mind, and it makes them think that's okay and that's normal, and they start to grow up a little too fast. And then, like, Jersey Shore, right? That was a show that came out when I was about in 7th grade. It took over everything. That was one of to this day, it's one of the biggest reality shows, if not the biggest reality show to ever exist. And I don't know if you ever watched it, but kids should not be watching that. I personally love the show as an adult. I think it's funny because I love anything raunchy. I'm a big Austin Powers parody movie kind of guy, so that type of show was awesome to me. But a lot of us were watching that, and it just became cool. We thought that was cool to have hookup culture and do drugs and party and drink because like, oh, well, they're doing it on TV. They're not getting college educations. They're not doing anything crazy, and they're making a lot of money to be on TV doing these type of things that we like to do. It puts this narrative in a young kid's mind that this is cool.
Yeah.
I was part of the problem. I mean, a lot of us grew up too fast. My mom used to always tell me, like, you want to grow up so bad, but once you grow up, you're gonna wish you were a kid. I used to always say, like, hell no, I want to be an adult. I want to go and do my own thing, live on my own. I don't have to listen to nobody. My
Yeah,
dumb
it's
ass
like
at the time didn't understand that even as an adult, you have to listen to somebody. You have to listen to
you
the law. You have to
gotta pay your
listen to your,
taxes.
yeah, you got to listen to Uncle Sam. You got to listen to your boss, your employer, HR. Like, you know what I mean? You're under someone your whole life. And even when you become a business owner and you own your own stuff, you still got to listen to the government. And you're always going to be below something.
Yeah.
Because even if you go to the highest power in the world, I'm a big religious guy myself. So even if you're at the top of the world, you're still under God. So you're still under someone
Absolutely.
regardless. So it's just being humble. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big problem. A lot of what's being shared in the households is just not good. And that was a big issue in my generation. So yeah, like you said, it all starts at home. And if you
Yeah.
don't have a good household, unfortunately, the foundation to the structure is just not going to hold up. So everything's going
Yeah.
to fall down with that. So
Yeah.
I
And
just
there's
had to let you
success
know.
stories. And there's success stories too that there are, I personally know people that were in foster care or abusive households or whatever the case may be, did not have that structure. But as adults, they do. They gave
Hmm.
themselves the opportunity. There's hundreds of people that did not grow up with anything, and they are successful on their own, and they are loved on their own because and I tell people, like, everybody's the same. I don't care if you're the richest doctor, lawyer, president in the world, whatever, or the guy that's in a cardboard box. You're still loved. You're still a human being. You still have respect. And even those that lose it or mentally are incapable of because of sickness, regardless, we should never look down on people. We should inspire people. And you have to understand that you got to be rock bottom sometimes too. You got to have hardships. Like for me, it was that changed everything for me. It changed who I was. It changed who I wanted to be around. It made me it made me realize that there was better out there, and no one was going to do it unless unless I gave the will to do it. God gave us will as men to do things as long as we entrust in his journey, right? So I knew at that point there was no second guessing like what was meant to be. And I do that all the time with every project that I do, every race that I've been in or helped with, my own business, my family's business, my relationship with my husband or my kids or friends. It's sometimes we have to move in other directions. It's not that we hate or dislike, or it's just God's will for us. We got to go somewhere else. And boundaries is a growing. What are the boundaries?
Man, that's a fact. That's a
So,
fact.
understanding boundaries. As a child, we don't comprehend boundaries. This is why policy is really important to me. So, we're going to do term limits, we're going to do policy, we're going to do being a voice for the majority. That's number 3. Thinking about what they want, what works, what doesn't work, being responsible, looking at all the ducks, not just influence. So choice of decision making, goal setting. That would go into number 3 for me. And 4 would be looking at what is not there as well. 4 would be like, what's the unknown? What's something we never thought of? By doing studies, that's another thing, and talking amongst other members to see, like, what's something that's never been done, and going through that will help all of that board in good time, because it's not going to happen overnight, right? Like, that doesn't happen overnight. Again, it's making good relationships. So number 5 is building relationships with those board members, with the administration, with the teachers, with the staff members, the directors, to the employees and everybody in between, the volunteers. We can't not forget about volunteers at schools. We got some. The law enforcement, the protection, public safety, public health, what's happening in our pediatrics, what's happening in our fire, what's happening, because they have like tourniquet kits. Are we getting those trainings? That kind of stuff. Protection, school protection, right? Are we for teachers holding no weapons? What kind of precautions are there? Because we live in Texas, that kind of stuff. What haven't we done? What have we done? What isn't working? So all those things kind of go together. And it makes a platform for myself that I truly believe in. Being fiscal responsible is just a given. Making sure accountability, that's a given. Those are duties you should be naturally. If you're not capable of doing those, you shouldn't be running. If you're not capable of preventing government overreach, you should not be running. If you're so deep down the rabbit hole with the strings on your back, you should not be running. Let it go, move on, and let someone else try it. So, like, for me, it's like a circle of things or a web of things that makes me who I am. And I'm just here just to help. Taking time out of my life that I can be with my husband, with my kids, with my family, building my own career. But I'm putting that aside, a little piece of my life, because our community matters. Bottom line, I want my kids to say they're proud of being a part of this community. I want our customers to know I am proud to be a part of their community. I am their community as well. We understand that I am different. That's okay. Perfectly good. I do not need to say sorry because I think differently either. Again, going back to the boundaries, and respect is earned as well and given with a faint of heart. But again, our economics, everything for government is based off of economics. If we're not financially stable, if our kids are not at a par, if we're not looking elsewhere for other opportunity sources, not just relying on government sources. But what about investors? What about partnerships? What about, we see there's corporate partnerships, there's indie partnerships, there's trade partnerships, you know what I mean? So, like, what are we doing to get those partnerships? That if we lose money from the state and federal can kind of fill in those gaps. I don't think we've done that. It's a lot about being a liaison for your constituents and for those kids, regardless of what area that they are in or what school that they're in or what grade that they're in. They all matter, even if they're outside of school. We should be recruiting our kids to become teachers so they can come back here, or become business owners so they can go to college, but come back here.
We definitely need more business in Alice because there's no reason why we have 45 restaurants and 16 car washes and not enough business.
So, like, incentives, or like, that's what they, from a business perspective, is incentives. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I think with me running, regardless if I win or lose, it's gonna change the game. It's gonna change the perspective, because every time I run in a race, and I've never won,
Not yet.
Yeah, I will say this. Every time I put my name in the hat for whatever opportunity is and go against the normative, success has happened. People's eyes are opening. People's hearts are opening. And people are learning and getting educated that they want better. And a lot of them feel silent because they're fearful. And the lions need to wake up the sheep with the giant growl, And I feel that is what I didn't die from my infertility. That is why I didn't die when I got in a car crash. That's why I didn't die when the doctor diagnosed me with a heart disease at a young age and said you would never live till you're 20. Like I fell out a window when I was 1. There's a,
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So like there's been parts of my life that I felt God's presence, and he was like, it's not over. You're made more for something, and we don't know what it is. You shouldn't. You can't know the future. We shouldn't know the future. If we did, we would all be lotto winners.
For sure.
But, we have to wake up ourselves first and then others. You have to have the will of an independent soul, has to have the will and want and inspiration and faithfulness to go through these things. It's a lot of stress. It puts age on you, stress with your family, stress financially, health. There's a lot of stresses that go to this, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing, because my thing is you're gonna see more people run for different races. You're gonna see that change, regardless if I win or do not win. I'm gonna guarantee you that. If it's not me, it's gonna be someone else. And it may not be today, but tomorrow is coming. And be prepared, because the lions are waking up. The lions are waking up. And I really feel in our community, because if we don't do it now, in 10 to 15 years, 20 years from now, we're going to be bypassed. We're going to be bypassed. We will be bought out, and our people here are going to be with minimum. We don't need to be bypassed. We see communities that are being bypassed, and it's a scary thing. And land is a big issue too. Who wants to buy our land? Like, why is certain people buying our land? But that's another story for another time.
Well, for sure.
Our schools need to come first. There needs to not be interaction with other governmentals. Schools should go straight from school to State Board of Education to the Capitol. There should not be really other touches with other entities influencing what is happening in our schools. That's called government overreaching. And with my advisory, and I have my risk analysis background, we can prevent that if I can get in. And of course, it's not, I know who I'm voting for. I know that. But we need registered voters. We need youth voters from 18. If you're 17 years old right now and you know you're going to be 18 by May 3rd, you can register to vote already. You can register by the state of Texas already. You go to the courthouse, you go to Elections Administration, you say you want to register a form there. Or you can go to votetexas.gov and print out a registration form, but then again, you're going to have to go back over there. So might as well just go to the courthouse and do it. I tell people, don't trust the mail system. I have 2 employees that did theirs. They still have not received their voters' registration cards. It's been over 2 weeks. So the county does the cards. So my thing is, what's going on with the mail system? Is the county being lazy? That's my question. I don't know.
I've had a few interactions with the county, and they're not too excited to do their job sometimes. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. And I've had issues too. I'm not going to go into that. That's another story for another time.
For sure.
And I'm a little hound dog when it comes to election integrity. I know my stuff. Election integrity is nonpartisan. It is a policy that is state driven. And if I tell people, if you have not received your voter's registration card by 2 weeks, you need to go in person and go hound them at the courthouse. Because I bet you your information's there sitting on a desk. And they just haven't done it. Because 1, sometimes they don't want new voters. 2, sometimes they get overlooked because they're just doing whatever they're doing. And it's a oversight. There's a lot of iffy things because of nepotism in the courthouse. Look who's working there. Look who's connected. Especially
there's a lot of biasy and corruption.
Absolutely.
But I feel like the corruption part can be told another time in life because of circumstances right now. It wouldn't be wise to speak about corruption.
So we're just advocating for people to get registered to vote, show up to the polls, do your American duty, get it done. The way to win for this race is at least one vote more than the competitor. Is it possible? Absolutely. Are there variables against us? Yes.
That's what makes it fun.
But my thing is, May 3rd is going to be a game changer for some people. We are a proactive campaign. We host events. We have our signs everywhere. We're going to do a children's event on the 10th at the VFW for kids during spring break. I'm not asking for donations. This is purely out of our pocket. So like, if people help, they help, and if they don't, it's no big deal because it's a quick race, very quick. They start voting out in April. So mail-in ballots are going to be an issue. You have to register to vote, and then you have to register for an application for a mail-in ballot. If you qualify, that's 65 and over, you're pregnant, that you're going to have a baby, and you're disabled, right? So there's like qualifications to even apply for this. That's just the application that the county elections administrator will mail people that application to them. They fill it out and they bring it back to them, and then they will release the mail-in ballots. Usually they start sending out mail-in ballots maybe like a week or two before the early voting starts. So the first set is going to be out probably the beginning of April. And I can tell you right now, that's something super scary to me. Election integrity is really important. I will not win mail-in ballots. People do not vote for me in mail-in ballots. I'm pretty, like I said, even though this race is a nonpartisan race, I'm pretty conservative. And I'm very proud to say that. And that's just my platform. And I'm open about that. I'm not scared to say those kind of things because they know who I am. They know what I represent, and it's okay. And I'm here to work for everybody. So I want to do the best I can for our citizens. But mail-in ballots are super scary for me because the fact that I know naturally that's not going to go for me. I need early voters and I need election day. I need those two. And that's all we can do is pray and just do what we can, show up where we can, help where we can. And then we're also doing, if people want to volunteer with our campaign, they can volunteer. If they're like a high school or college student or somebody who needs a job reference, I will be gladly happy to write it for them. A reference letter, a job, they could put my name on their resume. So like, those are kind of the things that we're offering, and we teach people how to do stuff, especially if somebody is interested in running later for school board. This is the best opportunity they can get. The best opportunity. They can learn about graphic design. They can learn about social media. They can learn about content development. They can learn about platform development, community advocacy, policy. They can learn everything right now. So whenever they're ready, they have all that already. And it's sure. It's just we just need help. Help is help. And that's all we can do. And now we're just, gonna do what we can and help where we can and stand up for ourselves and stand up for our community and say, hey, this is your opportunity. And I think we do have a very good shot. I'm not gonna lie. We've had some people that never supported me before are finally waking up to the line and supporting, which is great. And then, we have people who've always supported us in this initiative. And I think that's what it's beautiful because, again, I think once they see that someone like myself is doing this in 27, you're going to see more people like that, myself in other ways, come about to help our school district. And maybe into our city councils, then during the county and the district elections that are going to happen in 26. We definitely are going to see some new people and some new faces. And it's beautiful because that's what's all, like I said, the fruits of labor. When you start seeing that you inspire somebody, like say like in a year or two, like somebody that was on your show that never did podcasting, they might have one. And you're going to be like, aha, like you touched their lives.
That's actually in the works with the two people. And it's pretty cool because it just took me being from where I'm from to start it.
Exactly. And that's how the book happened. And actually, I talked about you, believe it or not. I hope your ears weren't red. This weekend with the women that from Texas that I was with. I told them about you, and I go, he's from our town, and he's in San Antonio now doing this thing. They're like, you inspired them. These are professional women, like hugely professional women. You inspired their group, because I was up in that room, and they're like, you know what? We should do that too for that group. So like,
Tell them to
you put
message
that,
me. I'll show them
yeah,
how to start this up. It's way easier. You
yeah,
could even start this. It takes 3 to 5 minutes of your time, and you can have your own platform like I'm doing right now. It's super easy.
yeah. So like, that's why I want you to know that you even inspired these women
That I
from
never
all
met.
over, yeah, that you never met, because you gave somebody a chance, and they're like, oh yeah, like, we should definitely look into that. And I told him, I go, why don't y'all get in behind me and like wave and stuff? But they were downstairs eating breakfast, so that's why they weren't in the room. But my thing is, like, I'm very, very honored to be speaking with you and to have this opportunity to like let you know our story, my story. It's not over. This is just the start of something. Who knows what's going to happen next? And I can guarantee you it's going to not just be me. It's going to be people like yourself or other people out there that want that American dream and that opportunity, something that they really, really like or is important to them. It can be a very personal thing to them, and inspiring them that regardless of, just go for it. Be yourself. Don't comply. Don't be a crony, and just go for it. Like, that's the
No
best.
cronies.
No crony. I want a T-shirt that says that. No cronies.
Trademark it.
I'm sure it's. I mean, the statesmanship of government is something that our society here in Alice needs to really reflect on. And I think that's what I can do for us. And I hope to have support regardless of where people are from or where they come from. And I hope to inspire. That's the most important thing too. Because I tell people I can't do this forever. Like, I have other things to do and responsibilities, but this is just the right time for this. And so we're just kind of see how it goes. And hopefully, maybe after May, we'll get back and talk with you and see where we're at after the election, regardless of win or lose. But there's some great things happening here in Alice. We just have to be patient and wait for those ducks to get in those rows. It's going to be a very interesting election season, not just this election season, but in 26 as well. It's very important people learn about candidates, learn about platforms. If it is partisan, learn about the priorities. If it's not, learn about what that governmental needs and wants are. Look at all the perspectives before judgment, because we should not be judging people because you don't know, especially if you actually never talk to them. And be kind. We need kindness in the world. And, you don't have to agree to disagree, and move on and do your best. Wake up, get going, learn something new every day, and be proactive. So, if I could leave that as my legacy, that's what I would want to see, is be yourself. No one is like you in the world, and we need every single one of you in the world out there, regardless, because you're beautiful in your own way in God's image, and you have a purpose. So I guess
I think that's a great way to end the podcast, because that was a powerful message, and I don't think there's anything better than that, honestly. That was great. Everyone, this was Amanda. Do you want to tell them where they can find your book?
Yeah, so we are on Amazon for the book. The book is called The Wilds Adventures, a Springtime Road Trip. So you go to Amazon authors and you just type in my name, Amanda Friedeck, Amanda, and then Friedeck. It should pop up my authors page, or you can go on Facebook. We have a Facebook there. I have a lot of Facebook. So the one for the book is called Author Amanda Friedeck as well. So we'll be around and we'll
Awesome.
keep on going.
Y'all go
Well,
check
have a
out her
good day.
page. Y'all go check out her book. And she is running for Alice ISD. So y'all go tap into the election and let's get someone good into the spot that they need to be in for once. You know what I mean? We've seen what goes on with Alice. We need a change. And this is the start of change. Let's do it.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Y'all have a good one.